This is the first episode, which is how to record your own drum samples and build a pretty detailed preset. What I'll be using before we dive right in is this. You'll need a microphone. You'll need something to record it on, so a DAW is great, or a portable recorder. You'll need something to edit, so then you'll definitely need a DAW. Today we're using Ableton for both recording and processing and editing. And you'll need some samplers. That's the most unique thing about my system today. It is Sensory Percussion, which allows you to have 10 zones, but you can do a pared down version of this using most samplers. Most samplers have the features that will allow you to create a fairly detailed preset. And most importantly, you'll need a sound source, and that could be a snare drum, a bass drum, anything like that. But today I'm using an Udu, which my mom made, and so it's a really cool instrument. So yeah, let's just get started. I'm gonna kind of explain things as I go. I need to let me show you guys my screen. Okay. So now we are in Ableton now. Let me just be 100% sure that you can see my screen. And you can. Okay, so we're in Ableton now, and you can see I've got a talkback microphone that I'm using, and I'm actually going to be using that microphone for the recording as well. So I'm just going to create another audio track, and I'm going to set it to the microphone, which is my channel 2, and I'm going to record it, set it to be record enabled, and we'll be using this one later, but it don't need the sensor to be turned on right now. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is recording hits from this drum, and so I have to set up the mic to do that. And we're going to be recording 3 overall velocities. So we're going to be recording soft tones, medium tones, and then loud tones. And we're going to record 10 different hits of each of those. So that's really how you get the most detailed. You can get away with doing 5 for very detailed presets, and but we found that 10 is the best, and then any more above that, like 20, you don't per gesture doesn't really make too much of a difference. But let me go ahead and set up the mic so that's recording this Udu. Okay, so I'm going to be recording out of this top hole right here. And I'm going to be striking it on the basin hole. And so for the number one thing before we hit record is we want to do a sound check. This is going to be really helpful later, but I'm just going to record a sound check really quick. Need a little bit more gain on that. So just going to play it. A little more gain. Give a little more gain. Okay, cool. So that's a fine sound check. Okay. So let's go ahead and listen to that really quick. This is mostly going to be used in a later stage, but we will go ahead and just check it out for now. Okay, it's a tad noisy, but that's going to be all right, actually, especially on the louder hits. It's not going to make that much of a difference. Okay, so we are going to now record 10 hits at velocity 1, so really quiet velocity. Let's see. Probably that velocity. And so the number one thing we're worried about here is what's called signal to noise ratio. If you're recording music, like a band playing or something, you really don't want to peak. So we're often told to hit on the meter. Ableton doesn't have a labeled meter on at least this. Oh, it does on this. But we're often told to hit right around -18 or -12 between those, or -24 dBFS. And we don't actually have to worry about that for this. We are going to try to get the most signal as possible. The reason why we're so cautioned against clipping in recording music is because when you clip, you damage the audio. It's really hard to go back and fix a musical performance. But with this kind of thing, it's actually very easy to fix audible clipping. So you just record the drum hit again and make sure you don't clip the next time. It's very simple. So, and your drum is going to sound much, much better if you really try to get up to, let's see, I know where like somewhere around here, like -3, -5, or even really, really even close. So we're gonna, for these velocity 1 hits, I'm just boosting the gain nice and loud on my mic, and I'm gonna hit record. Okay, velocity 1. Okay, cool. I think there were 10 good ones in there, so that's good. Okay, so now we're going to move on. I'm going to pull the gain back a little bit, and I'm going to record velocity 2. And so we're going to be using all of these samples later, which is when we create a detail one, we want lots of variety. That's why we're recording 10 hits. Velocity 2. Turn up the gain a bit. Turn it down too far. That was a misfire. Okay, cool. There was definitely more than 10 in there, so that's good. Okay, so now we're going to record velocity 3. Okay, so I'm going to pull the gain back just a bit. And by say pull the gain back, I'm just meaning I'm turning the knob to the left counterclockwise. That turns the gain down. Velocity 3. Okay, so I definitely clipped on that one. I'm not sure if that's audible clipping or not, but I clipped the meter. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and put the Udo down, and I'm going to set my mic back up. Let me turn it off really quick so you guys don't get crazy sounds from the stand. Okay, great. So now I'm actually going to go ahead and do, we're going to be doing some editing and processing in Ableton. We're at this next step. So I'm going to just get rid of myself from the corner. So that would be this one. Cool. Okay. So from here, whoops, sorry. So from here, we going to want to do some processing. So make this Udo sound good, but we don't want to go too crazy with the effects, because we can really do that at almost any stage of the editing. So what I'm going to do is I've just looped this sound check. Okay. And I'm going to use a plugin that I quite like, which, let me see, plugins over here, is Isotope Alloy 2, which is a predecessor to Isotope Neuron. Okay, and let's see. Here it is. Okay, so I'm just going to... And I like most of all about this one, I like the transient designer. So this is why we did the sound check before, because we want to do some experimenting on the sound we want, but we're not going to go too crazy. Okay, so I like to use a different EQ. Okay, and let's use this exciter though. It's just going to add just a little bit of harmonic distortion, just a tad. We don't want to go nuts. And I always like to add too much and then take it back. so I can tell like what the effect sounds like. Okay, cool. Cool. And okay, it's maybe a tad bit of compression. So okay, and where's my ratio? Here it is. They put the ratio here. It's way too much. That sounds nice though. I think I like that. Okay, so cool. And let's see. Let's add a little bit of EQ. I'm just going to use Ableton's built-in EQ, which is EQ8 right here, 8-band EQ. And I'm going to put it first in the chain. Okay. Oh yeah, I've noticed before that sometimes the bottom of the string gets cut off. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. Hopefully that you guys can see a little better with that. Just roll off some of the lows. Maybe give it a, even though we're recording the gesture we recorded, and to be fair, we would record more gestures than this. This is you're gonna see it's kind of a tedious process, but we would record more gestures. We'd record ideally any sound that the Udo could make within reason. That's what we do with like snare drums and stuff. Cool. So got the EQ just a little bit. That's nice. Okay, and then lastly, at this stage, I'm going to put a bit of reverb on it. I really like the way Udo sounds with reverb, and we're going to do this before we chop. So this is it's going to do something cool with the reverb. Because we're going to actually be chopping with the reverb on. I'll explain when that part happens. When we process the samples, it's an effect that I kind of discovered by mistake, but I quite like. I guess it's sort of like a gated reverb. Well, not really. I don't know. It's a cool effect, and I hope you enjoy it, because we're going to add reverb at 2 stages. Okay, so now the next part is I'm just going to listen to a few of these actual hits that we're going to be using, because we're not going to be using the sound check when we're building our drum. So I'm just going to check. Okay. Okay, I think it sounds pretty good. I'm actually going to back off just a bit on this harmonic, this little harmonic distortion, this exciter. Maybe pull it back this way and just pull it down. You really, because I can add saturation later if I really want. And okay, cool. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and start. We're going to export this, because we want these effects to be written to the audio file that we're going to be chopping. So I'm going to go ahead and export these, and it will take over my audio for a second, but that'll be okay on each export. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Command-Shift-R, which brings up this window. All the settings are good. Should really have my glasses on. Okay. Okay, and so we are in a good... oh, no, let's pick... I did a test version of this before, so let's do the actual version. Okay, and we are going to call this one Udo V1, because these are the V1 hits, and then I'm going to do processed. Okay, and now I'm going to hit enter, and you're going to lose my audio for just a second. Okay, cool, and now we're going to do that for the V2. Okay, so we're going to rename this V2. Great, and lastly, this V3 hits. Great. Okay, so now we're going to bring those back into this very same project. Okay, so we got to find them first, which is on my desktop. Whoops, went too far. Okay, so I'm going to select all of these. Okay, and I'm going to bring them into... wait, before I do that, I think if I just put the grid on, hopefully that will separate them. Sometimes when you bring them in Ableton, kind of overlap because of how it interacts with the warping feature. Oh, and it did it even with the grid on, which is fine. Okay, so we're just going to move these apart in time. Great. Okay, so we don't need this anymore, so just mute it or whatever. And let's make this nice and big. Okay, so from here, we're at the point where we chop. We chop the samples. Okay, okay, so you could, let's just make sure they still sound good. The ones at low velocity are always a little bit noisy, and that's okay. It'll actually, it's totally fine, as long as the medium and high velocity ones don't have any of that that noise floor, and they don't. Okay, so you could, in a lot of DAWs, you would have to make a little cut on either, and you'd want to be really careful to get the transient right, because that'll be important later. You can also do some trimming in the sampler and stuff, samplers, but I think it's good to not have to do that. In Ableton, there is an auto chop. In many DAWs, there's some sort of auto chopping feature, and in Ableton, I find it to be a little bit counterintuitive, and perhaps I actually would open this up to comments. There is a good chance that I'm not doing it the most efficient way, and I would invite you to please let me know. So this is how I do it. So you have to make sure that warp is on, and it is. And then instead of auto chop or things like that, you have to. It's called slice to new MIDI track. So that's what I've found is going to automatically chop it to the right transient. So let's get rid of that first. I think that's just me. This is saying V1. So let's try to get rid of all that, and we'll get rid of this at the end too. Okay, and then we're going to right-click on the audio file, and we say slice to new MIDI track. And so it's saying 19 slices, so that's more than I was expecting, but that's okay. We just need 10 of them. We're going to pick the 10 best ones. Okay. All right, so same deal for this V2. Okay. Good. It's warped, so that's good. This has to be on, or else I'll just show you what it looks like if you don't. It doesn't have the option. So you add warping, and then you say slice to new MIDI track, and 16 slices. Okay, and then lastly, this one right here. Cool. Okay, so what we're going to do at this point is check them inside this. So what this is doing is that Ableton has now put these on a little drum sampler. Oh, so it caught my little voice there. That's a pretty good one, I guess. Cool. So it has put them on here, and so when I double click on this, it shows it right over here. So let's pick 10 of these, and we're just going to say crop sample. Okay, we're going to do the same thing for here. Crop sample, and this is a little bit tedious. This is why I think there might be a better way that is escaping me, but crop sample. That one's good. Just gonna make sure that I get 10. That's good. Oh. Okay, so that one had a little bit of a, that's nothing. Okay, that's good. And I need one more, I think. If you don't quite get 10, that's okay too. Like I said, anything over 5 is acceptable. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say show in Finder, and that's going to bring up a Finder window. Okay, and so what we're going to do, because we're going to actually rename these, because I don't like the name slice 2, slice 3, blah, blah, blah. I want to rename them something more specific. But if I were to rename them in this folder, it would break the link between this folder and Ableton, and if I wanted to go back and do some editing or something, it would break the link and Ableton wouldn't be able to find it, and you'd have a little bit of a mess of trying to sort it out. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to copy these, select them all, so I Command C, and I'm going to create a new folder in here called Udo. Okay, and then I'm going to batch rename them. Paste 10 items into here, select them all, and then right-click on them, and then select Rename 10 items, and I'm going to give them a better name. So what this does is, hopefully you can see, I'll bring it to the middle of the screen. So I want this to be called Udo. In my mind, Z1 stands for Zone 1, and so Z1, V1, velocity 1. And then I have this little hanging hyphen here, or dash. And so what that is, so you see format, name, name and index, and where after name, and then start numbers at 1. So when I batch rename, so when I hit rename, it's just going to, and you can see, here's the example down here, Udo Z1 V1 dash 1. And so I'm going to do that, and it renames them all nicely. I love this trick. Okay. And so we're going to do the same thing here. We find 10 of our favorites. Okay, that's fine. Normally, oh wow. Normally it's pretty good at finding the transient, but it's good sometimes to be skeptical. And it was just cutting off too much of the transient there. Okay, that's fine. So we're up to 3. Whoops. That's good. Love the sound of the Udo. It's a Igbo instrument. They're people from modern-day Nigeria, and it's just a really, really cool instrument. That's one of my favorites. Oh, it's cool. I kind of hear a little bit of that harmonic distortion in that one, and I actually kind of like it, so wouldn't toss that one out. I guess that one might have been the one that was clipping, and it sounds okay. Sometimes clipping's all right. And again, this transient detector failed. Okay. And yes, please leave comments if you have any, and I will try to get to them. I was having technical difficulties at the beginning of this, so I closed out of the the being able to see the comments. It was a really dumb mistake, but someone will send them to me if at least I hope they will. Okay. Okay, so now we don't even need to show it in Finder. I'm just going to toggle over to Finder. Okay, and I want to arrange these by date modified so that it shows me these were processed later. So I know that these are the right ones. Okay, so now I'm going to paste them over into here. And this process, it is tedious. It's tedious no matter what DAW you're using in some ways, but it's super rewarding. I love this. It's so fun preserving. I consider this preserving a drum. You know, I can now shortly I'll be able to play this Udo with Sensory Percussion. Anywhere I can take it to a gig, I can do whatever, and so I love that. And so I hope that you all preserve your drums as well. So do this same thing. And this will go up as a blog post later on, so check the Sunhouse blog if you want to, and that's just Sunhouse, sunhou.se, like spelling Sunhouse, but putting the dot before the SC. And you'll find our blog there, and you'll be able to reference this, and it's going to have a lot of written text and some other images as well. That one missed the transient as well. And crop sample. I actually lost count. Whoops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, let's say this last one. Well, okay, I like that one better. Okay, and then crop sample. You notice we are going to normalize these later. I haven't been using this normalize feature. We're going to normalize them once we get to the sampler. I like to do it there. You can normalize it here, and I'll explain what that means when we get to that step. Yeah, so that's yes. So we're not normalizing at this step, but we will in the future. Okay. Cool. Grab these, copy them, paste them over into the new folder so that we don't break the link. Whoops, don't paste them into Spotlight, into the new folder. Then we're going to rename them. And then the fun part happens. We're going to bring them into Sensory Percussion and build our instrument. So, okay. So, V3. Great. Okay, so now I have Sensory Percussion open as a plugin in this session. So we'll just collapse those. And we're going to enable the sensor now. And we're going to pull up Sensory Percussion. And because I'm using it as a plugin, dragging from Finder is a little bit complicated. So I'm actually going to find the samples in the Sensory Percussion browser, which I have. They're just on the desktop. They're in a specific folder on the desktop. Sort them by date. I believe it's this one. Yes, so here they are in the library. That's good, but I forgot to mention, I am using a template, and I believe this template is available on the forum, but if it's not, I will make sure that it is, and it will be also included in the it will be included in the blog post as well. You can see I have this kit selected, and it's called VA template. That's the template I'm talking about. VA stands for Virtual Acoustic. I came up with that. I don't love it, but I couldn't come up with anything better. Let me know if you can think of a better name for what we're doing. Okay, so you can see I have 3 samplers here. So on the center zone. All right. And so the reason for that is they have different velocity I/O settings and they have different playback settings, if you can see my mouse, okay? So this sampler is going to be for only the low velocity. So that means this sampler does nothing if it gets a hard hit. It only does something if it gets a very quiet hit. And it's scaled pretty linearly. So at very quiet hits, it will fire off. So we're going to be putting only the velocity 1 samples in this one. This one is the different one. So it has a very wide range. It has the middle velocity. So, and that's pretty quiet, and that's also pretty loud too. So it's got a very wide range, and we're going to be putting every single sample into this sampler. And you can see it's set to control rather than random control, and you can see it's being controlled by something, and the controller is a velocity controller. So based off of how hard you hit, what sample gets chosen is right here. Okay? And then the final sampler is a lot like the first sampler, except it's for only the very loudest hits. The reason we do this three-step sample is because we don't want on very quiet buzz rolls or ghost notes you to hit the same sample every time. That sounds very robotic, and we want this to have a very natural playability. And so we want very, very quiet buzz rolls to don't play the same sample every time, play a different sample. And that sounds a lot more natural that way. And the same thing with every time you smack a rim shot or something, you don't want the same exact sample playing, you want some randomization. There are other ways to do this. We've experimented with some other setups. I like this one the best. You can randomize every velocity, so that's another way of doing it. But yeah, I don't know. Okay, so we're going to check to see how these are arranged. They're not arranged the way that I want them to be. You can see the velocity 1s are down here and the velocity 3s are up here. Well, let's sort by A to Z up here. And so we got this velocity 1. Let's just go ahead and drag every... Ooh. Okay, so there... if this were... let's see if this is doing this on all the velocity 1s. Okay, so at least on this one, there's a little error in the auto chop that I did, and I would actually, if I were to be making this instrument for Sunhouse, I would go back and I would fix that and overwrite the file. I'm not going to do that today. We're going to fix it in the sampler. Okay, so select all of these and drag them right into this middle sampler And then here's where we're going to normalize them. And so we normalize them. Oh, and you can see the error right here. There's that error. So I'm just going to grab this one. It's funny, it doesn't show up in this window, but that's all right. Okay, and I just trimmed that out. So the reason we normalize them is because we want them to be, so what normalize does is it scales everything to the same velocity, the same volume. It scales everything to the highest velocity. So even those V1s that didn't quite hit 0 dB FS or close to there, it's going to scale them to that. That's because we want it to be scaled by our playing. If you picture you're playing the drum and you really smack it hard and you trigger a sample that was not recorded to full scale, it was only recorded, like, let's say, be extreme and halfway up. It was only recorded halfway up. You would only get half of the volume. So you need it to be scaled to the highest degree. And then it will be scaled by your playing later, you'll find. Okay, so that has all the samples in this middle sampler. So on this bottom sampler, we want to have, and there's that error again, we want to have all these velocity ones. So all 10 of these are randomized, and let's fix that. Okay, cool. And then we will go ahead and, oh, that seems like, okay, yeah, there was a little noise at the end. Again, I would fix that, but we're not going to go back in time and fix that. So that's okay. Hopefully we'll find it. It seems like it's Udo Z1 V3-9. Oh, and it's taken care of by the fade here, and that's all right. So that's fine. Okay, so I'm going to actually pull this. I like to kind of keep things tight, so I shorten the length often, and then we're going to add some reverb later on. Okay, so now it's time to play this. So first I'm going to assign this edge to this center. Okay, cool. Okay, I'm hitting the drum now. Nice. Okay, so let me show you the drum while I'm playing it. Just give me 1 second. I'll set that up. Oh, excuse me. Okay. Okay, cool. So now let me point the camera down. Okay, good. So now, okay, so let me, also, I played some rim shots there, and so, I should cue you into my screen again. So we'll do window cam plus drum, window cap plus drum cam. Okay, so let's go ahead and I already have some more samples recorded that are of are Udo samples. They're actually of a different Udo, but they might sound good here. They are in the pack Gansfeld effect. So Gansfeld percussion in here. And this is a pack we released a while ago, and I had sampled a different Udo that my mom also made in that pack. And let's also do the bass and whole. And so I have all these like different full mute, half mute, and specialized hits. Let's do unmuted, and let's do, well, how does fingers sound? Wow, there's a lot of different. That's kind of nice. Maybe I'll add that to the rim shots. So as you can see, I just dragged in the middle sample. That's every single sample. Let's just drag the velocity 1 samples. And I just did 5 for this one. Didn't go quite as in detail as far as zones go. Okay, and then this highest sample. And we are almost done with this whole live stream, which is great. Thank you for bearing with me on the with the tech difficulties at the beginning. I appreciate that. I appreciate you coming and watching. And please feel free to leave a comment with a question, and I would ask my colleagues to send those to me if they see them. and then I will try to answer them. I'm going to do a demo of this Udo. Oh, and I should definitely add some reverb. Want to add some reverb? Sorry, I'm all over the place. So I'm going to do a demo of this kit, and then I'm going to do a demo of some more, a snare drum, a floor tom, and a hi-hat that I also recorded using the same method. Yeah, please let me, feel free to ask comments, and I will try to get to them. Okay, and thank you for watching. Too much reverb, so we're going to pull that down. Okay, cool. No comments at the moment. Okay. Let's just add a bit of saturation. Sometimes that sounds nice. Let's add a different sound to this rim, to the rim of the drum. And so if you were using other samplers that were not sensory percussion, you would just want to make sure that they have some sort of way to filter by velocity. We call ours the velocity IO panel. I think battery has a similar thing. Let's see. Oh, maybe this neck hole might sound good. Okay, yeah, and you can see these are recorded. They're kind of noisy at the low end, and that really doesn't matter much because they're scaled to be quiet enough that it just doesn't make too much of a difference. It sounds like that one. There's actually might be a small problem with. Yes, see, look at that. Yeah, there's the auto chop. I was not good about trimming that one correctly. All these actually. So let's just pick a different gesture. Okay, let's do neck slap. Oh, okay, so this is, and sometimes I do this too. This one is not recorded at any velocity, so what we're going to do is we're just going to delete these samplers. But I do want to have, and I'm just going to randomize all 5 of these. Sometimes this works, or 6 of these. Sometimes this works. And if it works for you, you know, it works. And so if I hit the rim tip, oh, it sounds like one of those was not trimmed perfectly. Maybe it's that one. Oh, no. All right. Cool. So yeah, that's how to record an Udo, and we have done this. This is the same method on like snares. This is one of my favorite snares. It's from the kit Crisp Apples. It's in the Primordial Breakbeat sound pack. Let's get some more volume on this one. This guy. I'm just gonna do it from the master channel, clipper, and I'm just gonna add a bit of gain. Cool. Copy this, and go to the floor tom. This is floor tom from Sol Secco. Cool. And then this is a hi-hat. You can also do this. I like to record hi-hats on mesh drums. It's really fun. So there's only 2 active zones on this one. There's the center and there's the edge. Oh, and there's the rim tip. You can see. Let's see what this is. So this is like on the rim tip. It's like the edge of the hi-hat that's hitting the hi-hat with this part of the stick. On the very edge of it. In here, this is the outer bow. So that's like very close to the edge, but played with the tip of the stick. And then there is the edge right here. And then there's the bell, on which I have mapped the edge. Cool. Well, I appreciate everyone coming, and let me point the thing back on my face, and make sure that I'm in the right. Let's see, webcam, and then. So thank you for coming to the first installment, the first episode of Electronic Drum School by Sunhouse. I'm Steven, and I appreciate you being here. And yes, please feel free to ask ask questions in the comments section once this is posted live publicly, and the recording of it, that is. And yeah, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you very